broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another edition of the Survivor After Show here on AfterBuzz. My name is Nando Velasquez. You can find me on Twitter at Nandovel, Nandovel. And today, we have no James and no Keaton again, but Jeff has joined us again.
Still here.
Yes, introduce yourself for us,
What's
Jeff.
up, guys? I'm Jeff. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jeff_Thurm. Happy to be back.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming back. And this is a big episode. I'm so glad. I'm so glad there's somebody here to talk to me about it, because this is the merge episode.
And we got a lot to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about. So this is fabulous. And just so you guys know, we are streaming live right now. We just tweeted out that we're streaming live on AfterBuzz TV and on YouTube. And you can also join in the conversation by tweeting at us at #ABTV Survivor.
If you are not watching this live right now, tune in next week live and tweet at us. We want to hear your comments and chat with you.
Yeah. So on Thursdays, we usually record this on Thursdays, 7 p.m. Pacific.
Yep.
But considering we haven't had a full panel here since the first episode, sometimes we have to change it around. We'll see what we can do. But we are committed to creating a consistent podcast for you this season with our new hosts, with me and the new people. So best we can do. Anyway, and a lot of people already, just FYI, a lot of people already online on YouTube. Shout out really quick to Sheena123, Latarsha Taylor, Bay Cameron, Eric Douglas, Mr. Big Mo 32, Miguel Rodriguez, and Saul Perez, Claudia Cienco. Thank you so much for checking in. Let's get started on this. Okay, so big episode. I mean, look, the merge episode is always such an awesome episode because it resets the playing field.
Right. Everyone becomes even again. Mm-hmm. Everything that you thought was going to happen. I mean, Tyler said it perfectly himself. He thought he was on the bottom, and then it's a refresh button.
Everything gets shuffled all together. You think, someone who's on the outs in one tribe ends up maybe being a swing vote or ends up being on the top. So, yeah, anything can happen.
It's crazy.
So
the crazy part to me, too, is when people are like, oh, I was so excited to meet them. Like, you forget that some people haven't even met each other yet.
Some people haven't spoken to each other yet. They're just looking far away.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
It is a little bit crazy. And I think... from what I can ascertain, I think we haven't really seen, Red Tribe, the no callers and the blue callers, because they've only really had one switch from that little switcheroo. They had Kelly and Joe change teams. Otherwise, they've all pretty much stayed the same. So there are people who have not really socialized or met with each other from both those tribes. But anyway, before we talk about the merge, let's talk about what happened post-tribal, because I thought that was kind of interesting, because, we saw a blindside last week.
Yeah,
Joaquin
huge.
was out, and pretty much all the Blues they were in charge of getting rid of Joaquin. Mm-hmm. Joe would have been on the outs most likely if everyone was on the same page, but they didn't like the bromance between Joaquin and the power couple between Yankees Red Sox. Yankees Red Sox combining forces. I don't know what kind of accent that was. It was a mix. It was a mix of Boston and New York.
Yeah, there you
go. So we come back and Tyler's shocked. Obviously he put a lot of his faith in the blue collars to get rid of Joe, and Rodney's pissed.
Yeah, Rodney wasn't as pissed as I expected, though.
I think he was hiding it pretty well, but
because I was expecting
ballistic.
Yeah, stuff to be thrown everywhere, things broken, words said, and he was not as much of a bomb exploding as I had expected.
I will say that Rodney did show a lot of restraint, considering his blow-ups at Mike, his blow-ups with Lindsay. He showed a lot more restraint.
Yeah.
I think it maybe came a little bit more from I have no one I can bitch to. I have no one I can trust on this team right now. I think that's where it came from, actually. But I loved, Mike's pulling him aside, and I mean, Mike's not a brain surgeon either. But I love Mike's attempt to try and convince him, try to use whatever strategy he can to kind of convince Rodney that Joaquin was too powerful. He was afraid that if they told Rodney they were going to go for Joaquin, that Joaquin would have pulled some different votes.
Right.
Rodney was insulted.
It's such an interesting conversation because neither of them like each other. Neither of them want to work with each other. Both of them have to pretend, and then it's just so fake on both sides.
Yeah.
But they have to go along with it. Especially when Mike even calls him out. He was like, "Yo, you were getting into this power couple," and Rodney's like, "Yo, bro, you think I would fall for that bromance? I wouldn't do that. I was giving you my dinero."
That's my favorite line. I'm putting on my De Niro right now.
All right,
I love that. I love that line. I love. I feel disrespected.
Yeah.
I can't believe you thought that of me. And then we hear in a confessional, anyways, the people who did me wrong are going to pay in the future.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to emulate a little Boston Rob there.
Yeah. It's such an interesting. The social aspect of the game is just so fascinating.
Well, it's just funny because, as we see when we go into the merge, Blues have the most people so far. They have 5. And yet, they seem to be the most fractured because they just have all these strong personalities. Although, as we'll see later on, it seems like every team seems to have a little bit of a fracture at this point.
Yeah.
And some of them are just more subtle than you realize. Let's talk about the merge. So, fun little time, no propes. They all walk together and they find out. First of all, I love the buffs. I just got to say, I know it's a small note, but I freaking love those buffs. I don't know what it is. It's mostly black with purple. I don't know. They just look. I don't know. I want one of those.
We'll get you one.
CBS, send me a buff. Yeah, and I was thinking about it on the drive here, actually, which is weird. It would have been cooler if it was, because it was purple where they had the logo, and it was purple stripes, and then the rest of it was black. And for some reason I like that, but it would have been cooler if it was purple with white, because purple really is blue and red mixed together.
Yeah.
And then it would have been cool to have white as the other predominant color.
Well, I didn't get why they didn't have white for white collar to begin with. Why was it yellow?
Probably because white gets dirty faster. That would be the only thing I could think of.
It bothered me.
It bothered you that?
No. You have red and blue and you don't have white. Yeah, got to go with yellow.
You got to go with yellow. Yeah. No, I agree with you. But I think the only thing I could think of is production-wise, I guess maybe it didn't show well on camera or it got dirty really fast.
It became brown, yeah.
Yeah. So that would be the only thing I could think of.
But my favorite part when they're walking up to... they're walking up and they don't see Jeff, but Dan sees and he yells out. He goes, "A huge crate of food!" And he was so excited about that huge crate of food. I have it in all caps.
Yeah,
he was so happy about that huge crate of food.
Like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah,
and I guess no alcohol, right? Because
there was wine and there was rum.
There was wine and rum, but I love how and I've seen this mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I think on EW, that the castaways are pretty. They're pretty smart. The contestants are pretty smart.
One of the questions was why haven't we seen anyone get wasted this season?
Yeah, and I think it's a fair. Considering how, forgive me, but considering how dumb some of these people sometimes play their game, I'm surprised that no one has had a drunken moment.
I cannot imagine being hungover on that island. That's what would stop me from drinking just the next morning.
Yeah.
I don't have In-N-Out to make me feel better. I can't just lay and watch I'm on that island. I'm not eating scorpion after a night of drinking.
Yeah. I guess that's true. Well, wash down a nice little scorpion for Mike with some alcohol. I mean, I'm guessing Mike doesn't drink for some reason. He's just super religious and everything, but I'm just guessing.
That gigantic tattoo on his back. Giant song tattoo.
I know, we see that tattoo everywhere. That's pretty he's a big guy, so you can't hide that too much. So anyway, we see the merge. Kelly is super excited. It's interesting to see Kelly's reaction in particular, because she's really good at I thought she was really good at concealing her emotions and just playing a nice poker face, especially with Rodney and Lindsay, that whole thing a couple of weeks ago. But she really didn't seem to like her tribe that much in the comments once they merged. She was really glad to get back with the Blues.
She was a hard one to read. I didn't really know where she stood a lot of the time. She kind of...
Yeah.
I don't know,
but it seemed weird, and it also seemed weird to see, when Haley and Jen were talking a little later, they're like, yeah, well, Kelly's gone, but we always knew she'd leave. So it was like she didn't really, whatever she was doing, she didn't really play, I don't think, that well when she was over at Nagarote.
Yeah, because actually there was a point Kelly was like, I have to keep Jen and Haley convinced that I'm still on their side, and then Jen and Haley were like, she was so obvious about leaving us. Like,
yeah. So I thought that was weird. That and Carolyn seems to be with her, but we'll talk more about that. So they have this beautiful feast, and they're going back to Escamecca, which we didn't see it, for yet, played out. But Escamecca is the only camp that has not had an immunity idol uncovered. The hidden immunity idol is the only idol still over in Escamecca. Because the only two people who have idols are Carolyn over from when she was over in White Collar Tribe, which was Messiah, and Jen over at Nagarote's camp.
Oh.
So, but we didn't see that in play. But I thought I wonder if that was done on purpose. So they're like, let's just put him in Escamecca so we don't have to worry about trying to hide another idol right now.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I noticed that one right away. So they go back to Escamecca. And then the other interesting thing is everyone's happy to go back to Escamecca. After all, the Blues, when they were in Escamecca, they won a lot of stuff. So they were just assuming they were going back to everything.
Excited to show things off
to show the tour, the Grand Tour.
In one of the interviews, God, what's her name? Sierra was saying she was really excited to show everyone the weaved ceiling that she made. She's like, I weaved this ceiling and I was really excited to show everybody, but then it wasn't there. Like,
that's pretty sad.
Really hours of work.
I know. Well, yeah, they have to start over again.
I know. Which I think is a brilliant. I think it's a brilliant move, but I also think it could have messed with gameplay a little bit. I'm kind of.
Why do you think so?
I have a lot of feelings about it.
Okay.
That I'm not sure. I feel both sides. I think it's a really good idea for them to have to rebuild because it forces them to all start from scratch, and they all have to who's going to be the alpha male that puts everything together, who's the guy that puts the fire together. But it also could have led to a lot of drama with Blue being like, this is us, having their huge ego and everyone walking into their territory.
Yeah.
So it kind of forced their egos to go down and be like, oh, we have to rebuild this together, as opposed to someone who can be like, that's my sleeping spot, that's my pot, that's
I agree.
my this.
I like that. Yeah, because it conceivably, especially the way No Collar and Blue Collar seem to not be jiving, it's like they go back to Escamecca and Blue Collar's like, this is my house.
Right.
This is pretty much my house. You're coming in. You're welcome. You're just a guest here.
Guest, yeah.
You're our guest. But now, no, we got to start from scratch and we got to work together.
Yeah.
It's not just the Blues. They got to put the stuff together. White collars and no collars got to get in there too.
Because Blue easily could have been like, all right, you guys go fetch the wood because this is our camp. So go get us fire or something. They could have totally played this is our home, but they didn't, and they had to work together, which is interesting and also good because if it allows people to have their private conversations, people back together again.
I totally agree. I mean, it gives lots of opportunities for people to say, hey, I'm going to go get some wood. I'm going to go do this. And people, I think it does give a lot of options. It keeps some people busy while other people are, even if the Blue Collars were smart enough, because it didn't seem like none of them ever looked for the idol. If they were smart enough to think that there was always an idol in Escamecca, since, let's face it, 4 out of the 5 of them have always been at that camp.
Yeah.
4 out of the 5 of them have always been at that camp, and we haven't seen anyone look for it. So at least they could possibly try and look for it. But I think they are a little more overconfident than the other tribes. So I think, if anything, they've kind of, at least for now, have, as of this episode, forgotten about the immunity idol.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I loved that Nagarote was asking about why did Huac get kicked out, and they were just, Mike was giving little excuses, and Rodney's seething underneath while Mike's while the other people are just talking about Guac leaving.
Guac.
I just want to call him Guac instead of Huac. Guac. And I also love Joe getting reunited back with Haley and Jen. So we almost saw him as a goner last week. But I loved.
Scary.
I know because he's the biggest threat in the game, and I think it's unfortunately obvious for him. It's unfortunately obvious that everyone else seems to think that way. But I love Haley and Jen when they're saying, "Is Rodney smart?"
Yeah,
and
I love
Joe's
that
like,
conversation.
Yeah.
I love the conversation.
I love that. Well, let's talk about Rodney and Will, because we do see a little. Rodney seems to go. I was surprised that Rodney went to Will out of everybody, but I guess it makes sense. I just thought Rodney, based on his strategy in the beginning of the season, when he thought he could like talk to the women, that he would go for the big one of the big guys instead. But he's trying to pull Will in. He's trying to get Will to be his new new Glock.
Yeah, I don't.
What do you think?
Maybe he was like, all right, clearly going after like the powerful players is a bad idea. I got to go for the weak people and like have the weak people think that I'll support them and get their numbers behind me or something. But I don't know. Will.
I mean, it seems like an unlikely alliance, don't you think? Between Rodney and Will?
Yeah.
They don't seem to...
But the rest of the alliance that Rodney wanted was the most random alliance possible. He wanted to get Kelly, Will, and Carolyn.
Or Caroline. He liked to call her Caroline.
All on his side, which is so not thought out on his part because of the amount of people that they're all from different tribes. So it's so dumb of him to like try to... I don't know. I think it was a really, really poor decision to talk so strongly against Sierra, Dan, and Mike with these three strangers.
Yeah.
He doesn't know where anyone's true alliance is. He doesn't know who anyone is actually attached to, and he's just like openly talking.
He's just flapping in the wind.
Big game.
Yeah, he's flapping in the wind, and
and how we have to do it for Walk. If you love Walk, we got to do this.
Well, I find it funny that he obviously feels betrayed by the Blues. So that's why none of the Blues, at least from Escameca, are in this Final Four. He assumes he can pull Kelly. Like, he has more pull over Kelly than... And he doesn't know about the Mike alliance. Right. But still, even regardless, he has more pull over Kelly over Mike, Dan, and Sierra.
Right.
Which I think is kind of a bit of a stretch for him. I don't know what his connection is with Kelly.
And for him and for Carolyn, I mean...
And Carolyn, too. Well, maybe because she's... I don't know. Unless, again, he thinks he can pull the women, with his story. She does have a tattoo. She does have a little tat.
We saw that.
Yeah, we do.
Tattoo or something.
Yeah, and he said to Lindsay, he likes girls with tattoos because they have stories and you can talk to them. Yeah, he can show off his tattoo with his sister and everything. Yeah. So, okay, so we have that. We know Carolyn and Tyler are reunited, and they're like, we have to keep away.
So smart.
Which is smart, because especially after what happened with Rodney and Joaquin,
and Max and Shireen.
And Max and Shireen, yeah, absolutely. Tyler in particular, because of what happened last week, is like, we cannot
be seen together.
We can't be seen together. So, and that's the smart play.
Very, very, very.
And that's actually, that's actually a super fan type strategy, I would think. You need to know that as a super fan, that if anyone who looks like a power couple can immediately get split up. On the other hand, Kelly and Mike, like you said, just started hanging out like from the moment, like peas and carrots. They just mixed together. And when we saw the next shot of Haley and Jen talking about Kelly running over to Mike right away, and of course there goes that strategy.
There goes everything that you just tried to set up or fake.
Absolutely. So we see that. So we see little pockets forming out of this. But let's talk about. I love this. Let's talk about the name.
Yes.
Because I think What do you well, you know what do you guys think listening in live on the chat show? What do you think about the tribe name America? It's because I really want to know in general. I mean, we heard two sides of it. We heard really two weird sides of it. I was really surprised that Haley loved it so much.
I'm a fan.
Okay.
I like it because of this season's theme of Survivor.
Okay.
I mean, it's a little bit ridiculous. I know Shireen is like pissed that it's not America, and she can't understand how you could drop the A, and part of me is like, it maybe should have been like Murica, like Murica, just to like,
Murica.
if we're gonna drop the A at least, I don't know. But I thought it was really cool that he was like, it's red, white, and blue coming together. Like it's America. It's a
red collar, white collar, and red collar. It's blue collar, white collar, and no collar, which is a red. Red in this tribe.
It's red, white, and blue coming together.
Yeah,
that is America. So part of me was like kind of into it, and then Joe, who I have a annoyingly strange addiction to, makes a really sick flag with all the handprints and red, white, and blue, and it's dripping, and the flag is cool. So I was in. Haley's into it.
Haley was really into it. Like for a no call, she's like, I love the Constitution. It's like a religion to me.
She's not a no caller. She's a law student. I don't know why she's on the no caller tribe. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's a law student.
She's going to be a public defender.
A law
student. She's going to be a public defender. And
she loves America.
And she loves America.
I don't know. I like the name. Shireen was pissed.
At first, I like the name for the exact same reasons you do, but I guess I always... I guess I always am really fascinated to see what kind of names they come up with, like if it has anything to do with the island or the mixing. And I guess it's just a weird name. And the way Shireen said it was so hilarious. Like it's a redneck thing. It's a redneck, and because it's coming from Mike, I guess it was a dig on Mike. So let's see. I just want to see what some of the people say here. Saul Perez loves it. They didn't call it Murica. Let's see, Mr. Big Mo 32, not the best, but I guess it goes with the theme this season. Yeah, I think ultimately, I think that's the best way to put it. It's not the best name. Not that I don't think we've ever really, I don't know if you guys ever spend this much time talking about a merge name, other than when Malcolm got everybody to do, what is it, his mom's name backwards? I can't remember the name of that one, that season.
I don't know.
That was a good one, actually. But it's not really worth commenting more than the fact that it's just pretty fun. And the flag, like you said, the flag was pretty funny too. Cool. They got into it. Those that were into it got into it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's move on. Let's talk about this immunity challenge.
Yeah.
Because it's a classic. We've seen this many times before, as Jeff said. Seventh time. 3 times won by, according to Jeff, 3 times won by a man, 3 times won by a woman. And, the big guys going down right away first, dropping like flies. Not really. I'm kind of a big guy, so I know I wouldn't last a moment in that one. I think Dan and Mike both fell out right away.
Dan and Will.
Oh, sorry, Dan and Will. Mike stayed a little longer. Yeah, Mike stayed a little bit longer.
Then Tyler, then Sierra, then Shireen, then I can't say her name right. Then Kelly, then
it was
Mike.
Shireen. Yeah.
Then Rodney. Rodney was holding on for a while. I'm a little bit surprised that his strength didn't hold him up a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. Actually, Carolyn surprised me lasting as long as she did.
Yeah.
Carolyn is pretty damn badass.
Yeah, that was awesome.
She held out.
And then Jen gets stung by the bee.
That was one of my favorite moments in the show. She got stung like in a pretty sensitive area. And she's a trooper. Holy crap.
Such a trooper. That was a boss move to... She seemed so unaffected by it. Was just like, all right, whatever.
Well, she was laughing and crying.
She was laughing and crying. Yeah, I was laughing and crying. And she was like hanging off by she had like one arm out, like checking it out. Like she was like hanging on there with only
like
one
monkey.
arm and one leg for a second.
Yeah,
I was super impressed.
That was pretty damn awesome.
I would have the second a bee flew on me, I would have just jumped off and get off.
You and me both, brother. You and me both. I don't.
Not the show for me.
I would have fallen off if a bee stung me like that.
If a bee even got close to me, I would have just.
She's pretty badass. Look, we saw her even earlier. We didn't talk about this, but we saw her earlier when Dan got stung by the jellyfish.
Oh yeah.
Just tell him how to handle it. So, I love that scene. Just to go back for a second to that scene, it was so funny. Just having Dan go, "Oh, I peed on it already." No, put hot water on it. And then he's walking away.
And Shireen's like, "Oh, do you need me to pee on it?"
Did we even see Shireen in that shot? I was wondering if she was bottomless. I was wondering if she was bottomless in that scene when she's like, "You want me to pee on it? I've already got my bottom down." So
it was just interesting. Really quick, not to go too much into that.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting to see how against listening to Jen he was. She's like, "I'm a lifeguard." He's like, "No, I got it." She's like, "I'm a lifeguard. You know what I'm doing? Put it in hot water." He was so against it. Does
that really surprise you about Dan though? The way he's treated women in the Escamecca tribe.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So, and also the fact that it seems seems to be, as we see, red versus blue at this moment. But anyway, look, I have not hid my love for Jen. That scene was pretty damn hot in general. So and props. And the rain.
The rain, that's just what I was going to say. And Jeff Probst loves nothing more in the world than rain during immunity or during tribal council. I mean, he said that in interviews. Like, he loves when it rains, and he was just like so into it. The smile on his face when it was raining. It was.
I will say there is a lot of drama, especially from a challenge like this, especially when they can last as long as they have, because these guys lasted over an hour.
They were up to 55 minutes when there's like 2 or 3 of them left.
Yeah, so I think ultimately Jeff said it was over an hour, and. We've seen some of these things go longer.
Yeah, I think the longest, I saw a video today, I think the longest was over 2 hours. I forget who it was, but...
Not for this particular challenge, for a different challenge. Oh, for this challenge?
For this challenge.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay, I didn't...
I wish I wrote down who the record holder is, but it's like over 2 hours.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? I mean, Joe was pretty comfortable there for quite a while, so he might have lasted longer. It just depends on if Carolyn or Jen could have lasted longer, too. But, there's nothing like the rain giving extra drama, extra suspense, and being, affecting the game.
I was a little bit surprised that Joe didn't throw it for himself.
Why?
I feel like Joe already has... I don't know. He has such a big target on his back already that maybe he was like, I need to save myself because I need immunity. But part of me feels like he could have like whispered over to Carol and been like, I'm going to let you get this. But I guess that can always get you kicked out anyway.
That can get you kicked out. And as we saw, Carolyn didn't seem to trust Red Tribe either. But
it could. I wish it could have been a way for him to gain a new person's trust, but it easily could have gotten... someone did that before and it got them kicked out. So
yeah, I mean, I was thinking the same thing. Like, you're showing a little too much strength here. But, considering he knows... He was on the outs last week. I think he felt really susceptible.
When he's up there, Rodney, I don't know if you heard this, Rodney is even whispering, he's like, let go, Joe, let go.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Joe has a major target on his back. And even if he was in a dominant alliance, I think he would still probably fight as hard as he can. Because really, in the end, you can't get too comfortable in this game. I think that's part of it, too. And as we've seen, he's already shown himself. People are calling him the Golden Boy.
Exactly.
They're calling him the Golden Boy already, and there's still 12 people, still playing this, or 11 now, but still, more than half are playing this game. So this game's just about halfway over. So kudos to Joe. I think I would have put money down. I definitely would have gone with Joe to win this one, but perhaps. But he ends up getting immunity. He ends up getting the first individual immunity. Carolyn's, of course, upset. She wanted something to brag to her kids about. Yeah. But whatever, it happens. Yeah. And so now the plan that Blue Tribe mainly had, which was to get rid of Joe, is now done. Right. I love it when that happens. Of course. When the main plan is like, oh, then he wins immunity.
Now we got to figure something else out.
Now we got to come with plan B. So we see all this scrambling. So this is really interesting because as we've kind of hinted at, it seems like the Blues and the Reds are pretty much aligned with each other, or they care about each other. But now we have the Whites in the middle. And what I think is really interesting, too, is that the Whites... At the very beginning of the game, when they all got their tribe names and they all got told where they were going, it seemed like everyone just looked at the white collars with disdain, like, "Oh, you guys are the guys that tell us what to do."
Well, Joaquin was in a suit. Going back to that last week, I would probably be on white collar just because of my job, but
yeah.
I would have seen the guy in the suit and be like,
I would probably be on no collar just for the lack of a job right now, but just kidding. But I mean, I just find it really funny how they seem to be the ones that the other tribes kind of hated just because they have that, that they're status. And now all of a sudden, like, they're the ones in demand and they're the ones that aren't in danger. I mean, after they weeded out 3 of them, but still, they're the ones now that everyone's playing with.
Shireen said something that was so smart. I have it starred, and it was so well said. She was like, there's 5 blue, there's 4 red, and there's
3 white.
And there's 3 white. We need to get the blue now, otherwise they have full control for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
That was like so eye-opening to me. It's like, that's so right. Like, if that was their chance, they had to even out blue. Otherwise, it was going to be 5 to 3 to 3 or 3
well,
to 2.
look, as long as red and white stay aligned, they would have had at least 2 votes to get blue out, because as long as they're not under 10 with 5 blues, there's always hope. It's just a matter of how strong. Split. It's just how strong these cross status, cross collar. I'm going to call it cross collar alliances are, because we see a few of them. I mean, the first one obviously we talked about already was Will, and what's interesting about that is even though Rodney's like, I got Will, their plan was to give Will a fake name. And go for somebody else.
Which is a brilliant move.
Brilliant to show his loyalty.
Yeah.
Although, well, we'll see. I mean, I wonder if you were playing the game and they gave you a fake name, would you feel like you could be trusted, or they could be trusted?
I would be pissed, but I would be happy because I don't know what game Rodney's playing. At first, I was really mad at Rodney. Sorry, excuse me.
At Rodney or Will?
I was really mad at Will for going against his tribe. I'm worried for when the other no-callers find out that Will was the one that wrote down Haley's name that he went against his tribe. But from a player standpoint, Will could have been playing the other guys to be like to prove that they have his loyalty. Because now it's an individual game. I think he was willing to vote against his tribe to prove his loyalty so that he now has 2 tribes.
But here's what's scary. Here's what's scary about that, too. It's because this is what scared me toward tribal. And I'm not trying to bounce the tribal, but we'll bring that up again. So Will gets a fake name. Will gets told that Haley's going home to put Haley's name down. And then we see a little bit later in the episode, before tribal council, when Jen and Haley are hanging out, and Jen finally confesses to Haley that she has the immunity idol, Jen says, I'm going to go find out who they want to go home, and I'm going to give that idol to that person. She pretty much says it more or less like that.
Well, so she was saying, I'm going to find out if it's you or me.
If it's you or me.
I think she knew it was going to be one of them.
Yeah, so she was like, I'm going to find out who it is. And I just thought automatically she was going to talk to like Will and Joe and see what they thought. And if Will was actually going to be loyal to his team, he would have said Haley, and Haley would have gotten the immunity idol, and Jen would have gone home today. So Will is definitely not. I don't think Will's playing both sides. I think Will is just like blindly saying, "Hey, you know what? Time for me to switch it up," which I don't think is smart, obviously, because I think at the very least, I mean, Rodney obviously wants to betray the Blues too, and I think that's what Will likes. Yeah. But otherwise, if Rodney doesn't betray the Blues, Will is a 6th man in a 5-person alliance. So, it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see that play out. On the other hand, the Whites are split.
I'm interested to see who actually has full control over of Will. Because I think Rodney thinks he's got Will, and I think Mike thinks he has Will, but Mike and Rodney are against each other. So when it comes down to Mike versus Rodney, whose side is Will on? I'm interested to see what happens there.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be really. I think it's gonna be really, really interesting how that might play out, depending on what happens from this episode. So you got Will on one hand, kind of floating in the wind a little bit, not really communicating. We didn't see him really communicate with any of the no callers. No one. He hasn't really. We hadn't seen him hanging out with Joe.
Off their tribe.
Yeah, it's just weird to see him not being a part of that. On the other hand, we see Shireen. Not communicating with Carolyn Carolyn doesn't like Shireen. We saw that last week. I don't think it's the smartest move to completely isolate Shireen, but and it's on one hand, Carolyn hates Shireen. On the other hand, Carolyn doesn't want to get too close to Tyler because she doesn't want anyone to think Tyler is and her have an alliance. But which is kind of, again, a little weird strategy. I get it, but at the same time, it's like white collar just seems completely decimated.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, Carolyn and Tyler are together, but it still seems like the way they want to play it is like white collar is not a tribe at all. It's just 3 individual people. So it's interesting. And one note I want to bring up. I mean, Shireen, again, another normal episode for her.
Yeah. She's back to normal.
She's really played. And you said she's saying smart things. I mean, we never denied.
She's a Yahoo executive.
Yeah, we never denied she wasn't smart, but she's not doing the stuff that was that we saw in her previous edit.
Right. And not to jump into tribal too much, but when she even says to Jeff, she's like, I'm not a swing vote. Like, she...
I thought that was an incredibly smart move to say, I'm not a swing vote. In other words, well, I don't know if that's a smart move, because that's pretty much saying...
I just think it means that she's admitting, she's like, I'm officially part of the no callers.
Well, she definitely didn't hide it in tribal council when the votes were coming down. She definitely didn't hide it. But I think it's always good. I think it's always good to assume you're a swing vote. Well, I don't know. I guess that's not true, because you want your alliance to know that you're strong with them. So I guess that's true. I don't know. It's an interesting. I never thought about that in this situation. Interesting. Anyway, so we have white collar kind of separate. We have Shireen going with the no callers, and we have Tyler and Carolyn trying to. I love Tyler's negotiation tactics with Mike. Like, you got to give me something. Mm-hmm. You got to give me. You guys, you let me down, and now you got to give me something.
Yeah, he says something like, "I can't trust you." He says something like, "I can't trust anybody on the blue team, but I don't know anybody from the red collar."
Yeah.
So what do I do? It's interesting. But I loved that, like, when Tyler and Carolyn were talking about, they're like, we're the deciding factor tonight. And earlier in the episode, Mike and Kelly were talking, and they're like, we're the deciding factor tonight. It's like everyone just gets so cocky.
It's cockiness.
But
it's the beauty of two tribes coming together and merging and still trying to figure out where the battle lines are drawn, which I love. So I think that's pretty much everything right before Tribal Council. We talked about Jen, telling Haley about the immunity idol and trying to figure out. So I got to say, first of all, I love this tribal council, obviously. Yeah. There was really no clue as to who was going to... I mean, we knew it was either going to be Kelly or Jen, with a small possibility of Haley.
Right.
But...
I just find it so... I find it so interesting. I'm glad that this is a 1 hour show. Very thankful, because it's a jam-packed. I feel the same way about Amazing Race. It's a 1 hour show, jam-packed, as opposed to The Bachelor, which I'm a huge fan of, but it's 2 hours.
I don't like 2 hour shows personally.
Nothing.
Yeah.
But there could be 2 hours of the show, because every week I feel like they just skip to the fact that okay, Jen and Kelly, how did they get to that decision? I don't understand how Jen became the target over Haley. I don't get how Kelly became the target. Last week I didn't get how Joaquin over Rodney.
It's a very interesting.
All of a sudden it's just, all right, these are the people. Who's it going to be between these two? But it's never who from Blue. I miss that discussion of.
Yeah, no, let's definitely. I want to talk about that, because I'm really confused too. I can understand why the blue collars wanted to go for Jen, because really their choices were to go for Jen or Haley pretty much, because everyone else they assumed was in their alliance. Right. But it didn't make as much sense for me why the no collars went for Kelly. And you know what? Right before we go that, what? It makes a little bit of sense, but the more I think about it, it's a very complicated strategy, but I think it makes sense. But go ahead. What were you saying?
After Jen and Haley, after Kelly was on their side when she was in their tribe, post the switch up, and then she went right back to Mike. So they were probably like, all right, well, if you're not going to be faithful to us, we're going to kick you out. So that's probably why Kelly was.
Which is a fair.
Haley and Jen chose Kelly for that reason.
Which makes
total sense.
It's a fair argument. But at this point in the game, usually the smart strategy, although it might be the easy strategy, is to go for the stronger players, because you don't want them winning too many immunity challenges. And if anything, the blue collar tribe is loaded with a lot of strong people. I mean, Kelly's strong, absolutely, but you got Rodney, you got Mike. Those are two incredibly powerful people. If there's a major physical challenge, they will be competing with Joe. Dan is surprisingly quick, we've seen a little bit, and strong. Even though he might not have the body of an athlete, he definitely can hold his own. And even that sting from the jellyfish, he's like, I ain't going home. Yeah. I'm not going home. Even if I have to pee on my foot, I'm not going home. So it surprises me that they would target Kelly when you think that getting rid of the stronger people gives it, at least especially if Joe's in your alliance, you give him more opportunities to win immunity, someone on your alliance to win immunity, all that. So that's why I thought it was weird. But I agree with you. I think Kelly betraying them, their trust a little bit, and the fact that Kelly, I don't know if they knew this, but Kelly kind of brought Carolyn. It seemed like Carolyn and Kelly really bonded. It doesn't look like Carolyn liked the no collars either.
Yeah.
So I feel like Carolyn wanted to go with the blues because of Kelly. So I feel like that may have been also a nice little linchpin to get out to maybe bring the whites back over to the no collars.
Maybe.
I don't know, even though they have Shireen already. But I love this tribal council. One thing that I was telling you before the show started that I thought was really, really interesting was we kept hearing them talking about everyone has a knife. Joe was saying everyone has a knife and everyone can pull it out and stab somebody else. So Joe was talking about knives, and then Tyler changed it to ice pick, and then Dan changed it to chainsaw. And I thought it was really, really interesting how each tribe, each collar had a different tool.
Right. And I wonder if it means anything.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, the no collar person said knife, the white collar person said ice pick, which I think is kind of like an executive. It kind of reminds me of like an executive, like backstabbing type move.
I was thinking like that he's rich and they go ski resorts, and so they have icicles.
They have ice picks. I was thinking more like an ice pick is a more like revenge, is best served cold type of stab, weapon to stab somebody with an ice pick. I don't know. It just seemed a little more elite.
But then chainsaw is just like blue collar. It's so like dirty.
You need muscles to hold on to that thing and go crazy. You were saying you were at the Dalton Ross report, and he said
Dalton was saying that you can't draw a line of chainsaw. You can't draw a line in the sand with chainsaw because then the sand will just go everywhere. So he's so funny.
But yeah, absolutely. So I thought it was really interesting to see. I love when we see moments like that, when we see the different collars to say something differently. And I thought that was actually beautiful. I haven't seen anyone else talk about that. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, let's see. What do we got here? So I love this tribal council. As I said, I thought the most brilliant moment production-wise for me was when they made us think that there was a possibility that Haley, that everyone was voting for Haley instead of. Well, first of all, they thought when Jen pulled the idol out.
Yeah, so everyone votes. Yeah. They come back. Let's tally the votes.
Yeah.
Then he says, if anybody needs to play the idol, play it now. We're left to wonder: is she going to do it? Does somebody else have it?
Yeah.
Jen plays it. Okay. Then production jumps in. So smart. I want to know the production standpoint from this. Like, I want to know how the votes are tallied.
Yeah.
But pulling Haley's name first, obviously done on purpose.
Well, yeah, I think they usually kind of know more or less what's going to happen, and I think they have it set up or something. Right?
It has to be set up, but it's just a question of how they reset it up.
Yeah.
Knowing I wonder if Jen says if she's going to play the idol beforehand so that they can do it, or if they set it up one way and then Jen says the idol and they go, okay, pause, and then they have to like reset it. I would wonder because obviously they make it seem like Haley's going to go home so that Jen can say, oh crap,
for a second,
I should have given it to you.
Yeah, we see that look on her face.
And then they read all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Jen names.
Yeah.
And she's just laughing the whole time. Shireen is laughing. And
Shireen is just high-fiving them. All of a sudden, they're all buddy-buddy. I love Shireen's now so buddy-buddy.
Stoked.
And Joe, too.
And obviously, they didn't want to give us 1 ounce of a hint of who could be going home after Jen. I mean, we knew it was Kelly, but Kelly didn't know it was Kelly.
Yeah.
And then they read Kelly's names and.
Yeah, again, a brilliant job on editing, brilliant job on production. Just because, again, when Jen got up, I thought she was going to give the idol to Haley, and then she didn't. And then they read Haley's first, so I was like, "Oh my God, no!" Because I didn't want to see either of them. I didn't want to see either of them go. I was kind of. I like rooting for the underdog, and I felt like no collars here, definitely the underdog.
They're my favorite too.
And to see that switcheroo and to see that happen was just. So I mean, we love it when we see the idol played, and it was played to perfection by Jen. So again, kudos. She's rapidly become my favorite.
I mean, it's scary. Like, it's so early to play that idol, and I think I saw a lot of backlash online, like people saying that she shouldn't play it that early. But if she didn't play, she would have been sent home.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Because let's talk about the votes really quick. So we know that Will voted for Haley. So Will's definitely on the blue side right now. And we see that Shireen voted for Kelly. So she's in with Joe and the other 2 no-collar girls. And yet Carolyn and Tyler are on pretty much Team Blue.
Yeah.
So It's a really interesting dynamic, and everyone seems to be against Joe. Joe's such a nice guy. He hasn't caused any trouble, but everyone's against Joe.
He's extremely good looking, and he's extremely sociable, and he's extremely good at challenges.
Yeah.
So
he's triple threat.
Yeah.
Triple threat.
Yeah.
So, and then one thing that we didn't talk about, but I noticed people in the chat room talking about it a little bit, so I want to bring it up. We didn't see much of Sierra this episode, but we know she's kind of on the outs too. And Rodney obviously doesn't feel secure with the Blues, even though he's sticking with them for now. He's just waiting for the moment to stab them in the back.
He even said, like, I'm going to just have to suck it up and be Mike's little bitch, is what he said.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's going to be really interesting to see if they really stay with that team at all in the long run. But it looks like Sierra... It's interesting because I would think that Sierra would bond with Kelly. That would also have helped Kelly to stay because Sierra might have stuck with Kelly. I don't know. I just thought maybe they'd have, because she wasn't, part of, well, she was there, I think, when they voted out Lindsay, but still I would think that maybe she could bond with Kelly more, but whatever. So that's an interesting thing to bring up as well. Blue's not as strong as we think. It's not just Rodney. Sierra just was quiet for some reason this episode. But that pretty much does it, unless there's anything else I've missed. I think that pretty much does it for this episode in general. But let's move on to some predictions then.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
So... before we do predictions, I just want to point out that there are some people who don't like to watch. It's one of my favorite parts. It's one of my favorite parts of the show, but I know there are a lot of people who don't want to be spoiled, and they don't want to know what happens in the next week. And every time a promo goes on, they change it. There's actually a Facebook group previously on Survivor that I just joined that they forbid any promo clips.
That's really funny.
Yeah, they kick you out if you do a promo clip. So we're going to talk about stuff, but we did see scenes from next week's episode, so we are pulling from that. So just want to let you guys know. So this might be the time you want to tune out for a bit. Otherwise, hang on. Okay, based on what we saw for next week's show, what do you see?
Paranoia. it's like reefer madness. Like it's just craziness with Idle Paranoia. It's almost like the Blues, like you kind of hinted at earlier. It's almost like they forgot that an idol existed, and then they're reminded today that people have idols. And then everyone, just the way it was edited, it just shot like everyone's just like looking like monkeys climbing in trees. Like everyone's just going nuts to find the idol.
It seems like one of those episodes where the whole tribe goes crazy looking for an immunity idol. And we definitely, I heard Joe's name being mentioned. I think Mike was looking. It looks like they're hunting for Joe. So my guess is that Joe does not win immunity next week, and that he's hunting for the idol as a last ditch effort. So, which also makes me think that Carolyn and Tyler, despite Kelly being gone, Carolyn and Tyler are still on Team Blue. Yeah. And we also see some more conversations with Will and Rodney. And Rodney kind of putting the bug in Will's ear that, Mike, this was Mike's plan. This week's plan was Mike's plan, and Mike was in charge, and look what happens. It should be me. So we definitely see a power play with Rodney trying to win Will over from Mike. So I don't understand what that is.
There's going to be drama there, and I'm interested to see what happens with if Haley, when Haley gets back to camp, wondering who voted for her. And if I think Rodney, I don't know, someone's going to snitch that it was Will. Someone's going to snitch that it was Will, and people are going to be pissed.
If they do the arithmetic, I think they'll realize that one of the Reds had to have voted for
Haley.
For Haley. All the Reds voted against that. Do you think Joe gets the idol? How about that?
No.
You don't think he gets the idol? I'm going to say he does.
Okay.
I'm going to say I think he gets the idol. I don't see him going away. I hope not. I don't see him going away.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I think my prediction for next week is that Rodney's going to switch over to buddy up with some of the no-collar people, and that either Mike, Sierra, or Dan is out next week.
Mike, Sierra, or Dan?
That's one of those three is out next week.
I'm going to say Mike. Out of those three, I would think Mike would be the most likely one because he seems to be the one that's stirring up the most. And Rodney would be on board with that.
Yeah, I think Rodney's going to try to get Will to go over to Haley. Yep.
Okay, awesome. So that pretty much wraps up our show for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Jeff, where can we find you during the week?
You can hit me up at Jeff_Thurm. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. And you can hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Nandovel, Nandovel. You can also catch us here on a bunch of different shows. You do Reality Roundup here at AfterBuzz, right? Reality Reunion. And I do a bunch of other shows here. Please comment, rate us on iTunes. And thanks again.
Thanks
Tune
for
in
watching.
next week.
See you guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.